All right, today we're jumping into a story of absolutely explosive growth. I mean, how does a tiny, kind of marginalized group on the very edges of an empire become this global movement? That's the story of the book of Acts. It's all about going from a single spark to a total wildfire. So the whole thing gets kicked off by this one massive command. Just try to imagine this for a second. Your leader has just left, and he gives you one job. Take this message, not just to your town, but to the ends of the earth. I mean, talk about an impossible mission statement, right? And that really frames the central question for us here. How in the world does an idea, held by just a handful of people in one city, actually catch fire and spread across entire continents? Well, the book of Acts is basically the chronicle of that totally improbable journey. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We're talking about the first leg of this relay race, really. There's a promise, and then there's the spark that just ignites the whole thing. And it all begins in Jerusalem, right at the heart of the Jewish world. You have to picture this scene. It's just filled with uncertainty. The followers of Jesus, they're a small and, you've got to believe, pretty terrified group. I mean, they just saw their leader executed, then he came back, and then he left again. So they're just waiting. But for what? They're not even totally sure. And get this scale of this whole thing is what's so wild. We're talking about just 120 people. That's it. This isn't an army. It's not a political party. It's about the number of people you could fit into a small classroom. That is the entire movement at this point. Just wow. And then, boom, everything changes. It's the Jewish festival of Pentecost, and something just incredibly dramatic happens. It's described as the sound like a violent wind filling the whole house, and then what looked like tongues of fire resting on every single person. This is the moment that spark finally hits the kindling. And here's the result. Look at this. From 120 people to more than 3,000 in one day. I mean, this isn't some slow, gradual growth. This is an explosion. The movement is now officially off and running, and it's spreading way faster than anyone could have possibly imagined. But, with that kind of crazy growth, you're gonna get growing pains. And the first huge hurdle they faced wasn't actually from the outside. Nope, it came from within. It was a full-blown identity crisis. Who exactly is this whole message for? And this is the crucial point, right? The whole movement started as a sect within Judaism. So the big question was, do you have to be Jewish to join? Or was this message for everybody? The non-Jewish people, the Gentiles? This debate, honestly, could have just torn the whole young movement apart right then and there. So the answer comes, but in a really strange way. The Apostle Peter has this vision. A giant sheet comes down from the sky, and it's full of animals that are considered non-kosher, unclean. And a voice tells him to eat them. Peter, being a devout Jew, is like, no way. But the voice insists, hey, don't call something unclean if God has made it clean. And that's the light bulb moment. Peter realizes this isn't just about food, it's about people, that God doesn't play favorites. So when Peter goes back and explains this whole revelation, the debate just stops. Everyone gets it. And this is such a critical turning point. The movement officially breaks out of its cultural and ethnic box. The door is now wide open to the entire world, which of course sets the stage for this massive global expansion. All right, so just as the movement decides it's going global, it finds the most unlikely and honestly the most effective messenger you could possibly imagine. This is like the story's big plot twist, where the main villain suddenly becomes the hero. So let's meet this guy, Saul of Tarsus. Now, he isn't just some critic, oh no. He is an active, totally zealous persecutor. The account says he was right there at the stoning of Stephen, the very first Christian martyr, and he was all for it. He saw this new movement as a dangerous threat that had to be stamped out, period. And we're not talking about some abstract disagreement here. This guy was a man of action. He was literally going from house to house, dragging out both men and women and throwing them into prison. For those early followers, Saul was their absolute worst nightmare. He even gets official letters to take his persecution on the road, all the way to Damascus. So he's on his way, on a mission to hunt down even more of these believers. And then everything changes. Out of nowhere, a flash of light from heaven knocks Saul right to the ground. He hears a voice, he's struck blind, and he has this radical encounter that just completely flips his entire life's mission on its head. I mean, the man who went to Damascus to arrest believers gets led into the city, totally sightless. He gets his sight back, and what's the very first thing he does? He goes straight to the synagogues and starts preaching the exact same message he was trying to destroy. You can't make this stuff up. So Saul, who from here on out is mostly known by his Roman name, Paul, he basically becomes the main character for the rest of the story. He's the guy who takes that original mission, go to the ends of the earth, and makes it his entire life's work. But man, it is not an easy road for him. When Paul goes to Athens, we're talking the intellectual center of the world at the time, he's pretty much met with ridicule. The philosophers there, they listen for a bit, but mostly they just write him off as a babbler with a bunch of strange ideas. So right off the bat, he's facing some serious intellectual opposition. Then you have a place like Ephesus, and there the opposition is all about money. See, Paul's message gets so popular that it actually starts to hurt the local idol-making business. So the silversmiths, who are watching their profits tank, start a city-wide riot. They're all chanting for hours in honor of their goddess Artemis. So now he's not just facing ideas, he's up against cultural and financial opposition. Okay, so through all of this, Paul has one ultimate goal in mind. He wants to take this message right to the heart of the empire, to Rome itself. And really, the last few chapters of Acts read like this gripping adventure story, all about this one final, absolutely crucial journey. But what's so fascinating is how he ends up getting there. It's not according to his plan at all. He gets arrested back in Jerusalem, falsely accused by a mob. He ends up spending years in prison. But here's the kicker. As a Roman citizen, he has one last card to play. He can appeal his case directly to Caesar. And just like that, the very people who accused him have accidentally paid for his ticket to Rome. It's kind of ironic when you think about it. And the journey itself? Oh, it is anything but smooth. Paul actually warns the sailors not to leave port, but they ignore him. Of course they do. They get caught in this insane typhoon-like storm for 2 whole weeks, and the ship is literally torn to pieces. And yet, somehow, every single person on board, all 276 of them, miraculously survive, washing up on the shore of an island. So the story finally reaches its destination. The message, carried by its most unlikely champion ever, has made it to the center of the known world. But the book ends? Well, it ends kind of strangely. There's no big trial scene, no final verdict for Paul. It just stops. It ends with him in Rome, under house arrest, but still boldly teaching his message to anybody who will listen. It's like the race isn't really over, the baton has just been passed on to the next runner. And all of that leaves us with one last big question. The book of Acts shows us this incredible journey of a message, traveling from the absolute margins of society right into its very heart. So it leaves us wondering, what happens next? What happens when an idea that began with just 120 people in a small room finally reaches the center of global power?